All right, it's Wisdom Wednesday where you drive the agenda. And on this segment of the Sales Gravy podcast, you bring your toughest sales challenges and Jeb Blount delivers his best answers. And those answers, they come straight from the trenches because Jeb's not just teaching sales, he's out there prospecting, closing, and leading sales teams every single day. But before we dive in, here's a quick heads up. The Outbound conference, the biggest, baddest sales conference on the planet, is locking in its next location and date. Tickets always go fast. So if you want early access to the lowest rates, head over to outboundconference.com and jump on the waiting list right now. That's outboundconference.com. On today's episode, we've got something really special. A tag team from Nashville, Josh Robich and Josh Nelson, and they brought a question to the table about outbound activity versus talk time and the deeper metrics that actually matter. If you've ever been on a team where leadership is focused on the wrong KPIs, or if you're a leader who wants to coach smarter, this is the conversation for you.
All right, next up on the show is Josh Squared. I've got Josh Nelson and Josh Robich, and they are from Nashville, Tennessee. What's your question, Josh's?
Yeah, Jeb. Well, first, we're just super excited to be here. Thanks for taking the time. You're kind of a legendary figure at my last company, and we've all read your book, Fanatical Prospecting, and it's made such a big impact on improving my sales production. So my question is, I am now at a new company, and at my new company, what they really focus on is quality conversations over prospecting. So to me, I actually came in more of a fanatical prospecting mindset. I've made a ton of phone calls, and although my phone time isn't the strongest in the company, I'm actually one of the top producers in the entire company, even though this is my first full year being here. And my phone time isn't as strong. So Josh has actually been with the company for going on 10 years, and he has more experience with the company, and he's in a mentorship role of why they focus on that. And I just wanted your opinion. Do you think that the outbound activity that you make as a salesperson is more important, or is it the quality of the conversations in that phone time? And for me, how can I improve my phone time?
So when you say you're one of the top salespeople on the ranking report, where do you rank?
Yeah, the last ranking report that was released, I was number 18 out of, I think, 130 reps in the company.
Okay. And where are you on the talk time stat?
I would say that I'm below average. So the minimum metric that they look for is 3 hours a day. I typically hover around 2.5 hours a day in talk time.
Okay. So the other Josh, why is this stat of talk time so important to your organization?
Great question. It's definitely a balance. I would say part of our value proposition versus others similar in our industry is really digging deeper, making it less transactional, more finding the problems. What we do can be very transactional, and I think talk time is preached so we can focus on facing each client with the time needed to diagnose the situation properly. And it's competitive. And frankly, I think there's also, depending on where the market is, longer you can stay with someone on the phone, longer you can keep them on the phone, the less chance they are going to spend another hour or two with a competitor. That's part of it too.
Gotcha. Is this a one-call close?
No, two calls.
So the first call is an outbound prospecting call.
Yep.
And you get them into a first-time appointment, doing a little bit of discovery, and then your next appointment, you come back and do a proposal. Is that the motion?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and the phone time comes on the first call. Yeah.
Okay. So how come Josh, your buddy over here, can sell so much if he's not talking at the same rate as the people who are hitting all their numbers on talk time?
That's a good question. I think it goes probably a little deeper as far as following our specific steps to the first call. All talk time is not created equal. That's for sure. I think if you follow the natural steps, you can do them in an efficient manner, still build your relationship with your client, still have the client know that you care about them. And I think that's why he's having more success. We joke about how he just follows the scripts and he holds up the paper jokingly. He's like, says it right here. So I do it. And there are people that have a ton of talk time, don't follow the sales script, and they're not as successful. So
Yeah. So,
yeah.
so what we've got here is, one of the problems when any organization fixates on a single metric that is fuzzy. Like, for example, have either one of you ever seen the movie Moneyball?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like,
great movie.
okay, well, Josh, who are shaking your head, no, you need to go watch this movie, okay? Because it's the greatest sales movie ever, even though it's about baseball. Because in this movie, Billy Bean figures out a metric, an on base percentage, and decides that, look, if I get people who can get on base more often, they're going to score more. So he focuses and fixates on that. And the next year, the Boston Red Sox adopted that methodology and won the World Series and broke the curse of the Bambino. And most baseball teams these days are focused on those type of metrics because that's a really easy metric to look at as on-base percentage. But talk time, it's like what you're trying to measure something that's almost unmeasurable in terms of its results on sales. Because let's just say that Joshua over here he's number one on the team. He's crushing his number. Like he's beating everybody, and he's talking half the time that people are on the bottom of the ranking report. Do you fire him? I mean, who's going to fire your top salesperson because they're not talking enough? Nobody. But if I said you need to have this many first-time appointments every single day, in other words, you need to have this many first-time conversations every single day and follow this proven step-by-step process of moving people through the decision journey, and he doesn't do that, I've got something I can hold him accountable for because that is Moneyball, right? First-time appointments, I can look at that and go, how many first-time appointments is he running? And I would bet with less talk time, he's having more conversations than less conversations. And if you look at the people on the bottom of the sales ranking report who likely have a lot more talk time, they're running less conversations because here's one like crazy stat in sales. The more people you talk with, the more you're going to close. It's pretty basic. So the balance is we want those conversations to be quality conversations, and we want to do a really good job of connecting with the customer and doing great discovery. And we want to make sure that we're walking them through the journey. And it sounds like you've got a really nailed down sales process that if you follow the formula, it works, which you just suggested. So what I want to do as a leader is instead of fixating on how much time a person is talking, I want to fixate on how many new conversations that are having, how many of those conversations are ending up in that second appointment follow-up, right? So if I'm having a lot of first-time appointments, but none of them are moving into the second stage, I got a problem. Nobody likes me. I'm failing. I'm transacting versus building relationships. So I would look at that. For Josh over here, I would say, I'm not worried about your talk time as much as I'm worried about what's your conversion rate from the first meeting to the second meeting. If that's poor, then you need to increase your talk time, right? Because there's something that's missing there, or you need to fix the formula, right? But if you've got a really good ratio of first-time appointments to follow-on appointments to closing, then we would say, okay, if you're number 18 on the ranking report, what are the things that we need to tweak in the conversations that can make you better? Maybe that's going to give you 10 more minutes in talk time. But if you're mentoring, Josh, what I would say is let's go walk through your calls and let's see, was there a place where you moved a little bit too fast, or there was a question that you could have asked but you didn't, or they were talking and you talked over them and you rushed a step. So now we're actually coaching the craft versus fixating on a number, because I don't really care about the number. Like the talk time number means nothing to me because it's not something that you can measure other than a minute, but it doesn't really measure the effectiveness of the salesperson. And the reason why we have stats like that is because as leaders, we're not willing to invest the time to observe and coach and train in the moment. We're looking at a number that allows us to be lazy and say, well, if you're not talking enough, you're not doing your job. And this is not the first time I've had this conversation. It's one of those weird things. I don't understand why companies do this, but I've just have so many stories of the top salesperson in a company walking away from the company because the leadership is like, you're not talking enough. You're not spending enough time on the phone. And I'm closing everything that comes my way. And you're worried about something that doesn't matter. What does matter, right, is he's number 18. What exactly do we need to do to tweak to move him to number 1? Because it sounds like he's a total badass that can close the crap out of things, right? So now as a coach, like as his mentor, think about, like, we just came off the greatest week in golf with Rory McIlroy winning the Masters, but think about it like you're a golf coach, like Justin Rose or a Bryson DeChambeau, and you're going to go in. You're not going to go, hey, you need to spend more time on the range hitting balls. You're going to go, let's take a look at your swing and let's break it down and let's just figure out where in this formula, where in these steps could you be a little bit better? Could you be a little bit more? Does that make sense?
And that's certainly something I think our whole team could do, is focusing on how many actual second call appointments are we setting and what's the cancellation rate.
Yes.
That's going to be really, really important for us. So I didn't even think about that.
Yep.
I didn't think about that either. That's a great idea.
So yeah, if you measure your show, like measure your first time appointments and your show rate and your second time appointments, right? Just, and all the way through close, you can just basically create a down sheet all the way through. If you measure that, then you'll know, right, whether talk time mattered or not. And it probably does. Like there's truly a balance here that I know that matters.
Sure.
Like I know that having deeper conversations, I totally buy into what you're talking about. We don't want to be transactional. We want to set ourselves apart and differentiate by the quality of the conversations that we're having with our customers. I totally buy that, but measure that in a little bit of a different way so that it gives you the opportunity to actually step into observing salespeople and coaching those skill sets that sometimes you just can't see when you're in the moment, that will give you a higher ratio. And all you need to do, Josh Nelson, is to go, okay, so if I'm number 18 and I improve a couple of small ratios, where would that take me? I'm using golf again, but I played golf last weekend. I shot a 42 on 9 holes, and I'm like, I could have shot a 38 if I had just had these little things go right? And I can go back and look at it later on and say, okay, if I can fix this, then I've got an opportunity to, to break 40 on 9 holes. So I'm old, so I can only play 9 at a time, and I don't have any time. But that's the same thing I would do here.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you, Jeb. That's great wisdom. Yeah, we're just, instead of focusing on one KPI, for lack of a better term, to try to dumb it down and take the lazy way out. Yeah, no, this is really good.
And I would say don't throw, I wouldn't throw that KPI out. I would use that KPI as a basis to say what's happening here. So if you have someone who has a really high talk time, but they've got a really low closing ratio, if you go back and listen to the calls, what you're going to hear is they're having really nice conversations, but they're becoming people's friends rather than their salesperson. And then you've got some people who have really, really low talk time. Like they're down in, say, an hour versus 2.5 hours. They're just transacting the crap out of everything. So they're just running through leads as fast as they can. They're burning up opportunities. There's a balance in there somewhere. It sounds like you try to get there, but use that as one metric that then starts telling you, where do I need to look at other things? So if I look at someone who's got 2.5 hours versus 3 hours and they're number 18 on the, ranking report, rather than go in and say, you need to go to 3 hours, I want to go in and go, what are you doing right? And then what can we do to improve that so that we can get you to number 1?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jeb.
Great.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Jeb.
Very good.
Awesome. Well, thank y'all for coming on. I appreciate it. And tell all those people at your company to listen to the Sales Gravy podcast.
Yeah, we're going to get some dialogue around this. Thanks, Jeb.
Awesome. See y'all later.
Jeb.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Sales Gravy podcast. If you've got a question for the show, go to salesgravy.com/ask and submit the form on salesgravy.com/ask so that one of our producers can reach out to you and schedule a session for you to be on the Ask Jeb podcast. Now here's the deal. What you just heard was not a debate between effort and quality. It was a wake-up call about measuring what actually moves the needle. Talk time is a vanity metric, unless it's tethered to meaningful outcomes like first-time appointments, conversion rates, and ultimately revenue. And that's why Jeb challenged Josh to shift focus from raw hours to precise ratios. You see, coaching elite performance isn't about pushing reps to do more. It's about helping them do better with the time that they already spend. And that means obsessing over effectiveness, not activity. And if you're leading a sales team, that's your play. Stop being a slave to lazy metrics and start diagnosing the sales process like a surgeon. And if you're the rep, learn to self-coach. Audit your calls, track your ratios, and remember, your job isn't to clock hours. It's to move deals forward with purpose. And when you're tired, When you've given everything you've got and you're tempted to call it a day, make one more call. This is Jeb Blount Jr., and we'll catch you next time on the Sales Gravy Podcast.
Hey, I'm doing a happy dance because you watched this video. Make sure that you click like and subscribe so that you never miss one of our amazing sales training videos.